So along the lines of budget, I wanted to throw something out to council that I had asked. I can see you hiding over there. See you're in here. BJ, to crunch some numbers for me. And I'm just sharing this because I wanted you to be aware of what this is. What he copied you on, Joe. Earlier.
Did we already get a copy of this in our email?
Did that come out in email?
No, I didn't unless people sent it.
No, I did not.
Oh, you didn't?
I don't. It's just I'm just sharing the information that he sent me. That's
Oh,
it.
okay.
It's not.
I got you.
I didn't know you didn't.
No, I will here in a minute.
So you might have seen an article in the paper this last week that talked about some surprising news related to ITFederal, and not a lot going on right over there, specifically around the funding and what's that? You didn't see it? Oh, I was like, oh my gosh. All right.
You didn't see it, someone called you to make sure you see it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just messing with you.
All right, thanks for that. I think like all of the council members here, I'm constantly turning over in my head the principal payment schedule for the police department, and feeling a little bit more anxious as we still haven't had an opportunity to lock in the loan, and as we're vetting out the different options. So again, the second page is really what I'm focusing on here, which is some of the things I asked BJ for. Number one, of course, I'm just trying to think in my mind, what is the principal payment that we're going to end up coming in at or close to if we wanted to hit it this year. And I was not here during the conversation where we got a little bit more, it seemed like a little bit more consensus gearing us towards a 20-year loan repayment. But I was talking to BJ, and in my head I'm thinking somewhere around the ballpark of about $600,000, which is a 30-year 4.5% repayment. So $600,000 that we have to come up with. So he broke down for me the money that we have allocated for the police department, some additional revenues based on the reassessments, and what that would look like if we had a half a cent increase in this year's budget that would generate some more revenue to pay towards the police department. And if I'm looking at this correctly, BJ, you certainly correct me if I'm wrong, that takes us to about $500,000, which is roughly $100,000 short of a $600,000 principal payment on the loan. And so one of the things that I know that we have going on out in the Aftech property is the connector road. And I know that we funded a certain portion using tax dollars or justified tax increase to fund that road, and we had a grant associated with that to build the first phase, which is coming to completion. But seen as, and then one more thing, we did invest another $500,000 out there on the auspice that ITFederal is building a building and then they're going to open it with employees, and we needed a pump station there. So we just invested $500,000 there on a pump station, and $1.2 million in a road where nothing is going in, as of today anyways. And it looks like that we have another $90,000 allocated this year to go towards the main connector plan to continue that road on through. And I wanted to propose putting a little bit of a halt on what we're investing in that property until we have some sort of anchor or serious investor out there, as we just spent the money on a pump station and part of a road. And I wanted to redirect that money towards the police department. And I'll probably preface all this with a little bit of, I think I said this last time, I'm not in favor of raising taxes 2 cents. I want to keep it as minimal as possible, due to the fact of the electric increase, due to the fact of the property assessment increase, and I wanted to see what other opportunities we had to help offset this debt service. So that would take us to $583,000, which still isn't at 4.5%, but it's within the margin of error for 4.5% interest on a 30-year loan.
All right, I'm going to take the stool away from you, and I'm going to stand on the stool.
That's all right.
the improvements, the infrastructure that we're putting into the FTEX has nothing to do with ITFederal. It is a requirement that we need to put in infrastructure to have an entrance and to have some pumping station. Am I correct, Joe?
You are correct that the lift station that we're installing there will serve approximately 4,200 employees on the site.
Future, whenever, but we're in the, and we had the money and we moved forward. Yeah, there was talk about ITFederal, the building's going up. And the building that is going up, it could stop tomorrow or it could be completed. And Tran Road could be put in, but right now, we're doing our due diligence.
Who made the request for that pump station?
Years ago, it was.
The EDA came to us.
Well, sure, yeah,
Yes.
because that's our,
Because there wasn't going to be the appropriate water to ITFederal.
we had to put a substation out there too.
And it wasn't shown on the site plans.
And we argued over who had to pay it, and the EDA said, we have no documentation of that, you guys got to pay it, boom, $500,000.
But moving forward, the Main Street connector, the main reason that's going to be is get people from the rural village area across that little bit of land and let them get off of Virginia Avenue and downtown. And that's always been. But you start
We
taking
don't
that,
have money for the other phase, though.
we're collecting it every year. There's so many pennies going towards that VJ every year.
Yes, about 90,000.
And then as somebody does, and eventually somebody will settle in there once things calm down and they start marketing it. And we'll be ready. If we stop today, then that just tells everybody that we have no interest in that site. And that's our site. That's our future development.
So we put in phase 1 in the pump station,
Sure.
and there's nothing there.
Right.
So we just
25
invested
years to clean.
1.7 million. I think that's a pretty strong indication that we're willing to do something, but
Yeah, we've done our due diligence. We've done what we're supposed to, and we are of the town. We're ahead of the game. It's there. As soon as they get the last coat of asphalt, that road that leads nowhere, other than down to where there's going to be hopefully.
how much does it cost to finish the rest of the phases?
Oh, I have no clue.
Like,
It
I
could
couldn't,
be
I can get you an answer, I couldn't give it to you right now.
probably 3 million.
I mean, we still have
A little
final
bit we put
paving
in
to
for me.
do. We still got to get electrical run to the pump station because there's some issues because they haven't done Tran Way, but
but that pump station's going to sit idle, right? There's nothing it's going to be doing right now?
Not to know.
I think I'll just put the brakes on.
I like Jake's idea.
Huh?
I like Jake's idea, the way he's outlined it, to reduce the amount of taxes that we're collecting, because right now, it's like he said, we got that situation there, and we're $1.7 million, and we can
All you're going to do is
redirect
kick the
it.
can down the road. I mean, that's, council decided 5 years ago when they raised it 2 cents. Some of it goes leaches run, some went to the road.
Right,
That's what they raised it
but
for.
somebody made this decision on ITFederal to move forward without seeing all of the contracts, and then we're stuck at this $1.7 million. And that's not everyone else's fault in town with the taxes.
Gene?
BJ, going back to the connector road, how much money did the EDA was brought forward through the economic development or through the state?
650,000.
So, and the total cost of the road, that piece was put in there was how much?
Basically 1.2 million, 1.3 million.
So what portion of that did we have to come up with, 590,000?
632,000.
But I thought it was stated that that had already all been paid for.
We haven't paid for it. I mean, we paid for it. It was in the money that we had been accruing over the
But
years.
it's already been paid for,
Correct.
theoretically.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So that portion has been paid for. So the 90,000 that it shows on here, if it would be allocated back to the PD in that 0.5%, or I guess it's 0.75%, I'm at it, it's 90,000. My biggest issue, and right now, if we could possibly go ahead and do that, because we don't know what's coming up down the pipe with the the industrial development authority. It could be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years before we get anything in there. I wouldn't be in favor of doing what Jake says here, because I think we need to go to the 20 years, because that's going to save the taxpayers $3.5 million. And I think whatever it would take, including if you want to add the 90,000, how much, what rate would we have to have in order to get enough money to pay the $692,000?
I mean,
Could we get by with?
You need another,
And a half.
you need another 3/4% increase.
Joe, it sounds to me like we need to bring this to a work session, because right now we're just throwing things out in the air and we don't really have anything concrete to go with.
Well, I mean, I think we would be more inclined to help the citizenry by going ahead and getting the 20-year and save $3.5 million.
Oh,
Than it
absolutely.
is to extend the 30-year and pay $3.5 million or more, because we can go get the 20-year loan now. If we don't, we're gonna have to wait till they get the pool again.
Well, how do you want to get
sometime this
there?
fall.
That's the question.
That's what I'm asking. If you're proposing 90,000 to be taken out of the West Main connector and added into the police department, which would give you $583,000, right? Then, but you're not paying anything on the loan at that rate. You don't even pay nothing, that's just the interest.
At the 30-year, 4.5, you're making the payment.
You're making a payment. But again now, if you're gonna save $3.5 million, wouldn't it be more important to add another penny and save $3.5 million than worry, because you're gonna have to raise it next year anyway. So go ahead and do it this year and raise it so everybody knows.
I'm fine with what you're proposing. What I'm asking for tonight is a redirection of that. And you're saying to move this to another work session, but if you do that, we're not gonna have this conversation before we vote on a budget, and I wanna know how we're paying for the police station before we go to a budget vote.
Well, I agree, I agree with that.
And it's not gonna be, in my mind, it's not gonna be on, voting for a 2.5% increase or 2.5 cent increase in taxes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask BJ to give us a figure, percentage-wise, do we have to raise it 1.5%, 2%, or whatever, to come up with that 20-year, $692,000?
I've provided that to council. I have copies of it right here. It was on the last work session.
Yes, last one.
Well, I had that, but that didn't include that 90,000.
Oh, if we were to include the 90,000
Yeah.
breakdown, I can certainly get that out.
Because that's almost a penny.
Yes, sir.
Because $137,000 per penny with the new assessments.
That's an estimated value
That's
still.
the estimate.
Yeah, I don't have the final
So
figure.
that would say, that would take 3/4% off of it.
Yes,
You
sir.
told me 15.5 would do it. So if we go to 14.5, more than likely that'll cover the 20-year loan and save the taxpayers $3.5 million. Somewhere in that range.
It's somewhere in that range. I mean, it's based on estimates. I mean, estimated rate that we would get, estimated assessments. I mean, they are estimates. I can't.
Well,
but yeah.
can you get that stuff?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm not in favor of a 30-year loan if we can save $3.5 million.
Yes, sir.
And we fiddling around with the new market tax credit so we can save $3 or $4 million, and look what it got us. 2 or 2.5 cents more on interest rates, which is what we're gonna lose, really. So let's take the 20-year, I mean, in my opinion, and save the $3.5 million off the top instead of extending it for another 10 years. It doesn't make sense. I don't think any of us here at this table would make a loan like that on our own homes or anything else.
And Gene, you're absolutely correct. And if something happens 5 years, 10 years down the road, town can refinance.
Sure.
So, it's a no-brainer. $3 million, $3.5 million, $4 million, that's a lot of money.